In today's video, we will look at the code section of a class. We will see how we can create a class. So let's begin creating a new project. So let's go to File and then New and then Java project. And here you have to pass the project name. I'm gonna call it student, and I'm gonna click finish. And now, if you go to your Solution Explorer, which is here, you see I have this student project here. So to create to use classes, if you want to create multiple classes, you must have separate files for each class, right? So if we want to create a student class, we must create a file class named student, right? So go to the new and then class, and then let's call it student. And in the package you can either put any name, or you can leave it as it is. So now I have this student class created, right? So I got my student class here, right? Just like you can think of it, it's just like the scanner class. Now I have to create this. Remember, this is not my test class, that this will not have the main method, and this is not my test class, right? This is my class for which this is the class that I will be using in my main method, in my main class, right? So what a student can have, a student will have a registration number. So first let's define its data members. So what a student will have. So to define data members of a class, you have to use the public keyword, and then you have to write the data type, that is, let's do int for now, and I'm gonna use the registration number. And I'm gonna it's declared now. So what else will student have? A student will also have a name. So I'm gonna use a string name. And what will else will a student have? And a student will have a GPS. So I'm gonna create a variable called GPS. So for now, my student class has 3 data members, and let's use the public keyword here. And one more thing, if you don't use the public keyword, it's public by default. So the default type is public. We will see more about public later, but for now let's keep this public. So now I have my data members defined. So this is my class. Currently it has 3 data members. So when I create an object of this class, the memory will be allocated for all these data members in and our objects will hold reference to all 3 of these, right? So now let's create a method. So first you have to create a method. You have to use the public keyword, then you have to specify its return type. So I want to use the void return type for now. And then I'm gonna use the let's name our method. So our name method is check status. So it will check whether student has passed or failed, right? So it's a simple function for now. So now one more thing, that these members are global. So they can be accessed in the whole class, right? They are not limited to any method. These are global. They can be accessed in whole class, my whole class, in any method, as long as it's in the student class. They can't be accessed outside the student class without an object. So I can directly access, for example, if I want to access name, I can simply access it, and then I can assign it a value like 12. So now my name will hold a value of 12, right? So this is what I'm showing you. So here I will see that if GPA, as you can see, I'm accessing this variable here, is greater than or equal to 2, I'm gonna print that student passed, right? And else I will print that student failed, right? So this is a basic function, but let's create another function which will take inputs. So to set, which will set all these values. For now they are empty, so let's set all these values by this function. So I'm gonna call it take information or enter data. So this is my function. It is returning nothing for now. And here I'm gonna take three parameters. One is the name, I'm gonna call it n. One is the registration number, I'm gonna call it number. Sorry, let's change this to string. And last one is the GPA. So I'm gonna call it grade. You can call it anything you want. You can even have these same names as well, but I'm not using them to avoid any confusion. And now here let's assign all these inputted values. So I'm basically taking these three parameters and then I will assign them to their respective data members. So I will assign the n to name, right? So the name n will be stored into name, and similarly uh, I will assign the number. So I will assign the number to my registration number variable. So this is how I'm going to assign our data. So these are three parameters. They will come from the caller. So the object caller will have these variables. You must remember this. And let's assign number to registration number, just like that. And let's assign grade to GPA. So now our class is complete. We can add more functions in it as well, but for now this is what we have created. And let's see how we can now my class is created. Now I can use this class in my test class or in my main class. And now let's see how we can use this, right? And also here I'm assigning an object equal to an object, but I think it should work just fine. And let's now I'm gonna go back to my student project, or my student package, right? I'm going back to my package, or you can even go to your this directory. You can go to your project. So I'm going back to my project or this package. You can select any one of them. I'm gonna use the keyword and I'm gonna use the class, right? And in this class I will call it test class, since it will test this method. And in this class I'm going to have a main method, so I'm ticking this. You can create it manually as well. So now I have two classes in the same project. So this is my student class and this is my main class. Here first I'm gonna create an object of the student class so I can access its all data members, right? So let's create an object. So this is my test class and this is the main method. So as you know, the program starts executing from the main method, so that class won't even matter. uh, and also I don't have to import this class here since it is in the same project. So to create an object of a student class, I first have to write student, then the object name, that is s1. Here you can give it any name at all, then equals to then the new keyword, and then again the student, and then these parentheses. So now I have the object. That's great, right? Now we can access all its variables like s1 dot. As you can see, we got s1 dot gpa. I can set the gpa to like 12, sorry, 3. Similarly, I can access its name, right? I can set the name to as well. I can set the name to like Jake, and similarly I can access the registration number as well. I can set it to 1. So now as you can see, I have access to all these methods, right? But I'm not gonna use this for now. I'm gonna use other stuff. So let's create another function which prints data. which basically prints all data. So it will print all data which the class has. So first I'm gonna print the name. Then I'm gonna print the registration number, and similarly I'm gonna print the, so it will basically print all the data that has been stored in a particular object. So remember, data, each object will have its own data, each object will have its own member functions and member uh, data members. So the registration number of one object will be different from the other. I will show you this concept with example. And here I'm gonna print the GPA. So now let's create an object, and first let's call the let's say uh, get what is it called, up where it is, enter data. So let's call the enter data function. As you can see, it is coming here, enter data, and here I'm gonna pass the name. So name is Jack. So this is simple method, and here I'm gonna pass the registration number as 1, and I'm gonna pass the GPA as 3, right? So this is my first object. Now an object in memory is created, like you can think of it like this. Now now an object is created in memory. So now we have an object in memory. This is S1. So this is my S1 object. It has been created. So for now it has name of Jake. It has registration as 1, and it has a GPA of 3, right? Now you created my object. It has all these members in it now, right? So my S1 will have all these members. So now, as you can see, while creating this object, I assigned all these values to it. So instead of passing the name directly, you can create a name variable as well. Like here I can create Jake, and instead of passing this, I can pass the variable here as well. It will work out just fine. It is just like passing parameter to a simple method, but I'm not gonna use this for now. uh, but you can use that. It's perfectly fine, and it's the probably the right way to do this. And you can take the input from the user as well, and store it into a variable and then pass the variable here. But for now I'm gonna keep it simple. Now let's print the data of this. So now I have entered the data. So when I call this function, all these three values will be assigned to these variables, these data members, right? So my object will look like this now, right? S1 will have all this data into it. So now let's call the print data function, so you can print the data and see what's going on. So now I am printing a data. I'm basically calling this function, which basically prints all the data, all the values of the members. So let's run our program. So now, as you can see, we got the name is Jake, registration number is 1, and GPS 3. So it is working perfectly, right? So now let's create another object, right? I'm gonna create it right here. So same procedure, I'm gonna call it S2 this time, since it's the second student. And here I'm gonna pass the data as Adam, and here I'll pass the 2, and I'll pass the GPA of 4, right? So now I've created another object. So by this statement I created an object called S2, right? Initially it had these variables name, registration, and GPA, right? This was my This was my how my S2 looked like. So as soon as this statement was executed, you can imagine that this block was created in memory, and this block has all three data members. They are empty for now, and when I use the this function, that is the uh, uh, enter data function, it basically assigned all these values to it basically assigned all these values to these data members. Since we are assigning all these values, so all these data members have values, and these values are stored into S2 object. So now S2 has Adam. It has a registration number of 2, and it has a GB of 4. Now we have two objects in our memory. Great, right? So now we have S1 and S2. Similarly, just like S2, I can print data of S1, S. So now I'm printing the data of S2. So as you can see, we got the data of S2. Similarly, you can have the data of S1. Let's run our program. As you can see, we got data of both S1 and S2. So remember that this concept that each object will have its own values. So they have, even though they have the same member and member functions and data members, they have their own values. So each will have different values, but the data members and the methods will be the same. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching.